Tonight, declaration renewed. Dawson Creek extends the state of local emergency. Christmas donations. The annual Stock Our Sleigh Community Food Drive is underway. And public plea. A Grand Prairie RCMP officer involved in a shooting. Well, good evening and thank you very much for joining us. And we begin tonight with the city of Dawson Creek extending once again the state of local emergency in response to the ongoing drought situation affecting the city's water supply. The city officials say the declaration is being renewed until at least November the 25th. The city's Emergency Operations Center team was activated back in October. The team has been working on obtaining permits to temporarily pump water from the Peace River to the city's reservoirs. Now, city officials say the Peace is a more secure water source than the current Kiskatinaw River. Dawson Creek has implemented Stage 3 water conservation measures since early September. Well, there's only a few days left in the Stock Our Sleigh Community Food Drive in Dawson Creek. And organizers with the Rotary Club say the generosity has been incredible in the first 4 days of the food drive.
We're 1.5 times of what we collected total last year, and we still got 3 days to go.
Reschny says he expects to collect around 3 times more food than last year. Donation bins can be found at 4 local grocery stores across town until Saturday. Reschny says donations will be divided and then sent to St. Mark's Food Bank, Networks Ministry, and the Nawakan Friendship Center. He adds the money collected will help fund food hampers ahead of Christmas. Reschny says he couldn't be happier with the high number of donations because he has seen more demand for them this year. And he says people who can't afford to donate food or money can also donate their time by volunteering. Mounties in Grand Prairie are asking for the public's help after a police shooting on Monday. RCMP are seeking footage of the pursuit between officers and a man driving a white GMC Sierra. Mounties received a domestic call shortly after 1:30 in the afternoon. Officers then found a vehicle connected to the situation and attempted to pull it over. The driver then fled, initiating a pursuit. The man was shot during an altercation that occurred after he rolled his truck while attempting to escape. He's expected to survive his injuries. The truck struck several vehicles within the Grand Prairie city limits during the pursuit. Anyone who has noticed damage to their vehicle is being asked to contact Grand Prairie Police. Well, drivers are being warned to expect delays on the Taylor Bridge next week as maintenance gets underway once again. The maintenance will take place from 7 p.m. until 3 a.m. on Friday, November the 21st. During this time, motorists are being asked to watch for traffic control personnel as single-lane alternating traffic will be in effect. Oversized loads are being advised to schedule routes accordingly as they will not be allowed to cross the bridge during the work. And drivers are being asked to monitor Drive BC website for information and updates. The 8-week strike by BC's public service workers is officially over. Members of the BC General Employees Union have voted in favor of ratifying the tentative agreement that's been reached between the union and the province. The BC GEU says 79% of its members took part in the vote. Out of those, 89.3% voted to ratify the tentative contract. Under the agreement, the employees will receive a general wage increase of 3% per year for 4 years. They'll also receive non-monetary improvements and enhanced benefits. This marks the official end of a historic 8-week strike by public service workers in British Columbia. Well, the province is boosting financial support for couples on disability assistance. Starting December 1st, partners will receive the same allowance as 2 single people. That's a change advocates say ends the so-called marriage penalty. And starting in January, families where only one person has a disability designation will see higher earning exemptions, allowing them to keep more of the money that they earn. The government says more than 10,000 families across British Columbia will benefit from the changes. Now, the provincial government is being accused of violating human rights. BC's Human Rights Commissioner says the province's response to the opioid overdose crisis violates human rights because it treats the problem as criminal. Kasari Govender says it's a violation of people's rights to treat drug use as a moral failing instead of a health issue. She says the BC government should implement evidence-based policies, and she points to a safer supply of drugs and harm reduction instead of bringing in programs such as involuntary care. Drug toxicity is the leading cause of death among British Columbians aged 19 to 59, with about 5.3 deaths occurring every day as of this September. A BC animal sanctuary is pushing back against what it calls misinformation about a recent outbreak of avian flu. Critter Aid had announced it was coordinating with the Canadian Food Inspection Agency and other authorities regarding an outbreak of avian flu. The organization in Summerland denies the CFIA is seeking to cull animals at the sanctuary, including cats and dogs. It says it's had nothing to do with 2 online petitions that incorrectly suggested a forced cull is underway. The sanctuary said it has euthanized several ducks and chickens itself, so it can ensure the killings were carried out with a, quote, dignity and love, unquote. The development comes after 12 chickens died at the sanctuary. Of the 3 of them were found to be positive for avian flu after being sent for testing. The organization says it has been receiving threats and unjustified hate since going public with its situation. The outbreak comes after a high-profile cull of ostriches at a farm in BC last week. Well, a big announcement from the Prime Minister in Northwest BC today. Mark Carney fast-tracking 6 major projects, including mining in Ontario and New Brunswick and power in British Columbia. Michael Couture has more on the second series of nation-building projects.
They are part of nation-building strategies to transform our economies.
The Prime Minister says the transformation is necessary because it's estimated U.S. tariffs and the accompanying uncertainty will cost the Canadian government $50 billion. It's why one of the projects supported by the federal government is a BC liquefied natural gas facility.
Silisms will become Canada's second largest LNG facility with a capacity to export 12 million tons of LNG every year to new markets.
In addition to that facility, the second round of projects includes a hydroelectric development project in Iqaluit, the Sisson Mine project in New Brunswick, the Crawford Nickel Mine project in northern Ontario, the North Coast Transmission Line in northwestern BC, and the Nouveau Monde Graphite Mine north of Montreal. All of them at various stages of development. And the head of the Major Projects Office says her role will be to speed up the process.
Our job is all about making sure that people get across the line, get everything they need to get built on time and on budget.
Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre says the new federal office is part of the problem.
He's created yet another bureaucracy, a new bureaucratic hurdle for miners and oil and gas enterprises and other resource companies to jump through in order to get anything approved.
While the goal is to make Canada less reliant on trade with the U.S., some researchers say governments need to look beyond the current trade issues.
We need to think about what's going to happen with that land after mining's finished. What post-mining land uses could be secured there.
In addition to the 6 projects, the federal office will implement a strategy to improve infrastructure in an area between BC and Yukon, also known as the Northwest Critical Conservation Corridor. Mike Couture, CTV News, Ottawa.
A Swedish jet manufacturer saying today a deal on its Gripen aircraft could bring thousands of well-paying jobs to Canada. Saab confirming it has held talks with Bombardier and other Canadian companies about the Gripen. This ahead of a royal visit from Sweden's King and Queen to Ottawa and Montreal next week. Genevieve Boscheman has the details from Sweden.
The company that makes the Gripen has told CTV News that 10,000 manufacturing and research jobs could land in Canada if Ottawa adds the Swedish fighter jet to its military fleet. The president and CEO of Saab, Mikael Johansson, confirmed he's talked with Ottawa about making Gripens in Canada. He's also met with companies including Bombardier, CAE, and IMP in Nova Scotia.
It's important for Canada to have sovereign capability in Canada to do their own upgrades, to build parts of it, to do final assembly and tests. We, as Saab, we are prepared to do that technology transfer to Canada and support that build-up.
This would be contingent, of course, on Canada adding the Gripen to its military fleet. That technology transfer could see the first Canadian-made Gripen fly off the assembly line within 3 to 5 years. It could also lead to the building of a new facility, a hub of sorts, where jets could be made not just for Canada, but other nations, including Ukraine.
It makes sense to have a big footprint in Canada together with Canadian industry. So it's absolutely a benefit for us to do that.
Canada has already committed to buying made in the U.S. F-35s with an option to scale up to 88. but Prime Minister Mark Carney ordered a review of the purchase amid growing trade tensions with the neighbours to the south. A decision on whether to have a dual fleet of F-35s and Gripens has been up in the air since. A large delegation from Sweden, led by the King and Queen of this country here, is headed to Canada next week with the aim of strengthening ties. Johansson is also making the trip, which is making a stop at Bombardier.
We are focusing quite heavily to make sure that Canada has all the information they need for the moment. And then it's up to Canada to decide.
There's no word as to just when a decision could be announced. Geneviève Beauchemin, CTV News, Stockholm.
New public documents show the Public Health Agency of Canada lost more than $20 million worth of pharmaceutical products from the national stockpile this year because of what it's calling a temperature deviation. Health Canada refuses to say what exactly was lost or how the temperature deviation happened, citing national security implications. The department only says it refers to pharmaceutical products such as vaccines held in the national emergency stockpile. The statement said the losses will not compromise the capacity to respond to public health events. The head of Canada's spy service outlining threats facing this country today.
I would say that Canada is not going to be shy, or at least CSIS isn't going to be shy to come public with information when it's in Canada's national interest to do that and when it's in our national security interests. But today I gave examples that were new and things that Canadians hadn't heard before.
The CSIS director warns that spies from China and Russia have significant interest in Canada's north. He says non-Arctic states like China are looking to gain an economic and strategic foothold in the region. The spy agency also points out that Russia, with a significant military presence in the Arctic, remains unpredictable and aggressive. More problems today for some air travelers in Canada. In what's becoming an inconvenient trend, there was a service disruption once again at inspection kiosks at airports across the country this morning. The issue was resolved by 2 this afternoon, according to the Canada Border Service Agency. It says the interruption was caused by an unexpected technical issue during maintenance and not a cyber attack. As a result, passengers were directed to manual processing lines. This is the 4th outage reported since late September. Stateside, the longest government shutdown in American history has finally ended after a record-setting 43 days.
It's an honor now to sign this incredible bill and get our country working again. Thank you very much.
On Wednesday, the House of Representatives approved the funding bill that would allow the government to reopen. Hours later, U.S. President Donald Trump signed the legislation into law, but the strike's impact will linger as airports slowly start to return to normal operations. The deal will also allow funding to resume for the 42 million Americans who received food assistance. But another showdown could be looming, as this agreement only funds the government through January the 30th. And the White House is downplaying the newly released emails from convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein's estate. In several exchanges, Epstein references his friend Donald Trump, casting new scrutiny on their friendship. CTV's Joy Melvin has more from Washington.
In newly released emails, convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein wrote a New York Times reporter in 2015, suggesting he might have dirt on Donald Trump. Would you like photos of Donald and girls in bikinis in my kitchen? And in 2019, when President Trump was running for re-election, Epstein wrote author Michael Wolff, alleging Trump knew about Epstein's criminal behavior. He wrote, of course he knew about the girls, and he asked Ghislaine to stop. Epstein also confirmed in an email the former Prince Andrew was photographed with one of Epstein's victims, the late Virginia Giuffre, contradicting Andrew's claim that he never met her.
Categorically, I don't remember meeting her at all.
President Trump has denied all allegations of wrongdoing, but his administration continues to push back against releasing the Justice Department's case files, FBI investigations, names, and the scope of Epstein's crimes, abuse survivors pleading for the truth to come out.
Just rip the Band-Aid off all at once, give the public what they need, and give us what we need, which is transparency. The other survivors, my survivor sisters, they're not going away.
In Washington, the politics are shifting. More Republicans now are joining Democrats demanding full public disclosure of Epstein's crimes.
I would remind my colleagues that this vote is going to be on your record for longer than Trump is going to be president.
The pressure on this White House is not letting up. Democrats now have the numbers to force a vote next week that could lead to the full release of the Epstein files. Joy Melvin, CTV News, Washington.
All right, Noah will be right back after the break with weather, and there is some snow in the forecast. Stay tuned.